I never thought I'd be one of those guys writing on here about my relationship problems, but here I am. I'm 38, and my wife, Lisa, is 36. We've been together for 12 years, married for 9. For the most part, things have been fine. At least I thought they were. We've got 2 kids, a mortgage, and what felt like a pretty typical suburban life. I work in IT, and Lisa's been at the same marketing job since before we met. Things started feeling off a couple of months ago. Lisa began acting strange, more secretive with her phone, going out with her friends more often, and staying late at work. At first, I brushed it off. I'm not one of those paranoid guys, and honestly, I've always trusted her. She's never given me a reason not to, so I figured I was just imagining things. I told myself she was stressed, maybe just needed some space. I didn't want to be the insecure husband, you know? But there were these little moments, like when she'd come home and I'd ask how her night was, and she'd give me these half-assed answers. Like, oh, the usual, or it was fine, nothing special. Except, she'd been out way later than usual. Once she came home at 2 a.m. when she'd said she'd just be grabbing drinks with coworkers after work. I tried to push it out of my mind, but it was nagging at me. It wasn't until one night last week that everything started crashing down around me. So, last week, it's about 11 p.m., and Lisa hasn't come home yet. She'd said she was going out for dinner with her friend Julie. They're close, so again, I didn't think much of it at first, but then I remembered something. Julie posted on Instagram earlier that day. She's on vacation in Florida, so there's no way they were hanging out. My gut dropped, but I didn't want to jump to conclusions, I thought maybe Lisa just misspoke, or maybe she'd made last-minute plans with someone else and didn't tell me. I texted her, just a simple, "Hey, you coming home soon?" No response. An hour went by. Nothing. By this point, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was seriously wrong. It was like all those little things I'd been ignoring suddenly hit me all at once. Her late nights, the constant texting but never telling me who she was talking to, the way she'd always flip her phone face down when she set it on the table. I should have gone to bed, but I didn't. I stayed up, pacing around the house, checking my phone every few minutes. Around 1:30 a.m., she finally walked in the door, looking, well, not like someone who'd been having a quiet dinner with a friend. Her hair was messy, and she had that sort of flushed look, like she'd been drinking, or doing something else. "Hey," she said casually, kicking off her heels. "Why, you still up?" I asked her straight up, "Where the hell have you been?" She froze for a second, then recovered quickly with, "I told you, I was with Julie." And right there, I lost it. "Julie's in Florida, Lisa. Try again." That's when her expression changed, like she was scrambling for something, some other excuse. She stammered, "Oh, I meant Jennifer." "Yeah, I was with Jennifer." She laughed, trying to play it off, but it felt so forced, so fake. I didn't even argue. I just stared at her, and she walked past me like everything was fine, heading for the bedroom. It felt like I was watching my life fall apart in real time, and I didn't know what the hell to do. The next morning, she acted like nothing had happened. She was her usual self, making coffee, getting ready for work, all smiles and small talk. But I couldn't shake the feeling that she was hiding something. I needed to know the truth. While she was in the shower, I did something I never thought I'd do. I checked her phone. I know, it's an invasion of privacy, but at this point, I didn't care. I had this sick feeling in my gut, and I had to find out if it was real. Her phone was locked, but I knew her passcode. I'd never even thought to use it before, but that morning I punched it in without hesitation. My hands were shaking as I opened her texts, scrolling past the usual stuff, work messages, group chats with her friends, until I saw a name I didn't recognize, Ryan. My heart sank. There were dozens of texts, flirty, suggestive messages, plans to meet up, and even photos I wish I hadn't seen. The most recent one was from the night before, saying, "I can't stop thinking about last night, winky face," with a bunch of hearts and winking emojis. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. All those months of doubt and suspicion came crashing down in an instant, and there was no denying it now. My wife was cheating on me. And it wasn't just some emotional affair, it was physical. I could tell by the way she talked to him, by the pictures. It was sex, plain and simple. I put her phone back down just as she came out of the bathroom, smiling like everything was fine. I had no idea how I was going to confront her, but I knew it had to happen. And I knew it was going to get ugly that evening. I couldn't keep it in any longer. After the kids were in bed, I asked her to sit down. She looked at me like I was being overly serious and rolled her eyes. "What now?" she sighed, clearly annoyed. "I know, Lisa. I know everything." Her face didn't give anything away at first, like she was trying to decide how to react. But then she laughed, actually laughed, and said, "Oh my God, are you serious? You're really gonna be that guy? Snooping through my phone? Jesus, grow up." I could feel the anger boiling up in my chest. I saw the messages. I saw everything. "You've been lying to me for months." Her expression changed again, this time to something colder. "So what if I have? What, are you gonna cry about it? You never made me feel wanted anymore, Joe. You stopped caring, and I'm not gonna apologize for finding someone who does." I was stunned. This wasn't the woman I married. I mean, we had our problems, sure, but I never thought she'd say something like that. It was like she didn't care, like she was just waiting for me to find out so she could stop pretending. "Do you even care?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Do you care that you've destroyed our family?" She stood up, grabbing her purse. "I'm done with this conversation," she said flatly, heading for the door. "You can whine about it all you want, but I'm not sticking around to listen to your pity party." And just like that, she left. I sat there in the silence of our living room, the weight of everything crashing down on me. When Lisa walked out the door that night, I just sat there, staring at the empty space where she'd been standing. I didn't know what to do. It was like I was stuck in some awful dream I couldn't wake up from. I kept expecting her to come back, to say she was sorry, to tell me it wasn't what I thought. But she didn't. She didn't come home that night. I slept on the couch, not that I got much sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I'd see those messages, those pictures, and her laughing in my face. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. How long had this been going on? How could she just throw everything away like that? The next morning, she still wasn't back. I had to get the kids ready for school, which was a weird mix of normal routine and complete chaos inside my head. I didn't want them to know anything was wrong yet, so I tried to keep it together. But they could tell something was off. Kids always know when things aren't right. Once I dropped them off, I sat in the car for a while, just staring at my phone. Should I call her? Should I text her? What the hell was I supposed to do now? I felt like I was floating in this weird limbo where my whole life had just blown up, but nothing had actually changed yet. Around noon, Lisa finally texted me. It was brief, like she didn't even care what had happened. "Staying at a friend's for a few days. Need space." That was it. No apology, no explanation, no remorse. Just need space. Like she was the one who deserved a break after everything she'd done. I didn't respond. What could I even say to that? I was too pissed off to have a real conversation with her. But I wasn't done digging for answers either. If she thought she could just lie her way through this and walk out like it didn't matter, she was wrong. I started thinking back to all the times she'd been out with friends or working late. All the nights she'd come home acting strange, or the weekends she'd taken these so-called girl trips with her friends. I wondered how much of it was real and how much had been a lie. That afternoon, I called Julie, her best friend, the one she claimed to be with the night she lied about. Julie sounded confused at first, and when I asked her point blank if she'd been out with Lisa that night, she hesitated. No, Joe. I haven't seen her in weeks. I thought you guys had something going on." That was all I needed to hear. Lisa hadn't just lied to me. She was lying to everyone. I thanked Julie and hung up, my heart pounding. It wasn't just Ryan. This had been going on for months, and God knows how many people were involved. I felt sick. The more I thought about it, the more everything started clicking into place. Lisa hadn't been slipping. She'd been getting better at hiding things. I realized that all those times she'd said she was at work late, she was probably with Ryan or someone else. It was like the whole last year of our marriage had been one big lie. That night, after the kids were in bed, I decided to do something I never thought I'd do. I went through our phone records. I felt like a damn detective in my own life. When I saw the call log, my blood boiled. Ryan's number was everywhere, dozens of calls and texts, all hours of the day. Even when she was supposed to be with me, or the kids. It was like a gut punch seeing how little respect she'd had for me and our family. And then I noticed another number. One I didn't recognize, but had shown up just as much. There was more to this than just Ryan. I stared at that number for a long time before deciding to call it. I had no idea what I was going to say, or even who would pick up, but I needed to know. It rang twice before a man answered. Hello? My throat went dry, but I managed to speak. Yeah, is this? I trailed off, not knowing the guy's name. Who's this? He asked, sounding a little confused. This is Joe, Lisa's husband. There was a long pause on the other end. Then he let out a sigh. Shit. That one word confirmed everything. This wasn't just some random wrong number. This guy knew exactly who I was and why I was calling. How long? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Listen, man, he started, but I cut him off. No, I don't want to hear your excuses. I just want to know how long this has been going on. He was quiet for a minute, then finally said, a few months. I hung up the phone without another word. It was like my whole world had just shattered again. Not only had Lisa been cheating with Ryan, but there was someone else too. I didn't even know this guy's name, but I knew enough. Lisa had been lying to me for months, maybe even longer. And it wasn't just one guy. She'd been juggling at least 2 affairs, probably more. I felt like an idiot. How had I not seen this sooner? How had I let her play me like this? That night, I finally broke down. I couldn't keep it together anymore. I sat on the couch in the dark, my head in my hands, and let the weight of everything hit me. The betrayal, the lies, the humiliation. It was like a tidal wave of emotions that I'd been trying to hold back for days. I cried. Not just quiet, manly tears. No, I sobbed. I hadn't cried like that in years, and it felt like I was losing something I could never get back. It wasn't just about Lisa cheating. It was about the life I thought we had, the future I'd been working for, the family I was trying to hold together. All of it was falling apart, and I had no idea what to do. After that night, something inside me changed. I wasn't going to sit around and let Lisa ruin my life anymore. I wasn't going to beg her to come back, or let her gaslight me into thinking this was somehow my fault. I called a lawyer the next morning. I hadn't told Lisa yet, but I knew that was the next step. I couldn't stay married to someone who had that little respect for me, for our kids, for everything we built together. It was over, and I had to accept that. But that didn't make it any easier that a couple of days later, Lisa came back home. No warning, no text, just walked in like she was returning from a regular day. The kids were excited to see her, of course, and I did my best to keep it together in front of them. I didn't want them to feel the chaos that was boiling just beneath the surface. Once they were busy with their homework, I asked her to sit down. She rolled her eyes again, like she was annoyed that I was bringing this up, but she sat on the couch across from me. I could feel the tension building. We need to talk, I said. She crossed her arms and sighed. Oh, here we go. I didn't even respond to that. I just looked her straight in the eyes and said, I've talked to Ryan and the other guy. I know about both of them. Her face twitched for just a second before she put on that same cold, dismissive mask. So what? Are we really going to do this right now? Yes, we are, I said firmly. You've been lying to me for months. You've cheated on me with at least 2 guys, maybe more. This isn't something you can brush off or walk away from. We're done. Lisa stood up, pacing around the room, clearly irritated. Oh my God, Joe. Stop being so dramatic. It's not like I'm the only one who's unhappy here. Maybe if you'd actually paid attention to me, I wouldn't have had to look elsewhere. There it was again. Her twisted version of reality. I couldn't believe she was trying to turn this around on me, like I was somehow responsible for her cheating. You're seriously going to blame me for this? I asked, my voice rising. I've been working my ass off to provide for this family, to make sure our kids have a good life. And you repay me by screwing other guys behind my back? She scoffed. Oh please, spare me the martyr routine. You were never around. Always working late. Always too tired to do anything with me. What did you expect? I expected you to be faithful, I shot back. I expected you to talk to me if you had problems, not go and sleep with the first guy who gave you attention. She didn't respond, just glared at me like I was the bad guy here. The whole situation was surreal. I couldn't believe the woman standing in front of me was the same person I'd married all those years ago. "I talked to a lawyer," I said quietly, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm filing for divorce." That got her attention. She stopped pacing and stared at me, her eyes narrowing. "You're serious? You're actually going to throw everything away?" I laughed bitterly. "I'm not the one who threw it away, Lisa. You did. The moment you decided to cheat, you destroyed our marriage. I'm just cleaning up the mess." She didn't say anything after that. She grabbed her purse and left again, slamming the door behind her. After Lisa left, I sat in the quiet house for a long time. I knew the hardest part was coming, telling the kids. They were still so young, and the thought of explaining to them that their mom and I were splitting up felt like a punch to the gut. How do you tell your children that their family is broken? That the life they've known is about to change forever? I decided to wait a few days before saying anything. I needed time to figure out how to explain it without making them feel like it was their fault or turning them against their mom. As much as I hated what Lisa had done, I didn't want to drag the kids into the middle of it. They didn't deserve that. When I finally sat them down, I tried to keep it simple. "Mom and I have decided that we're going to live separately for a while," I said, forcing myself to stay calm. "We still love you both very much, and that's never going to change. But things between us aren't working right now, so we think it's best if we take some time apart." They didn't ask too many questions, which honestly surprised me. I don't know if they were too young to fully understand, or if they'd sensed the tension between us for a while. Either way, their reaction wasn't the meltdown I had been dreading, but it still broke my heart. Seeing the confusion in their eyes, knowing that their world was about to be flipped upside down, it was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. The divorce process started soon after that. I didn't waste any time once I knew for sure that there was no fixing this. My lawyer was direct and to the point, which I appreciated. There wasn't much to argue about, honestly. We both wanted custody of the kids, but I wasn't going to fight her on that. I wasn't going to be the guy who tries to cut their mom out of their lives, no matter how much she'd hurt me. Still, Lisa was combative in court. She didn't make it easy. She tried to paint me as this absent father who didn't care, who worked too much and wasn't around for the kids. But the truth was, I had been the one holding things together while she was off doing God knows what with other men. I was the one who had been keeping this family afloat. Eventually, we agreed on joint custody. The house would be sold, and we'd split the proceeds. That hurt too. That house had been our dream. The place where we planned to grow old together, where we raised our kids. Now it was just another casualty of her betrayal. It's been a few months since Lisa moved out for good. We finalized the divorce last week. I've been trying to move on, trying to rebuild my life, but it's not easy. The nights are the worst. When the kids are with her, and I'm alone in this empty house. It feels like I'm mourning the death of something that was once beautiful, but is now just gone. I've thought about dating again, but the idea of trusting someone feels impossible right now. How do I even begin to open up after everything that happened? Every time I think about it, I just picture Lisa with Ryan or that other guy, laughing at how easily I'd been fooled. I'm working through it, though. Slowly. I've been going to therapy, trying to unpack all the anger, the hurt, the confusion. The therapist says it'll take time, that healing from something like this is a process. I just hope I can get there one day. If there's one thing I've learned from this whole nightmare, it's that you can't ignore the signs. If something feels wrong in your relationship, don't just brush it off. Trust your gut, even if it feels paranoid. I wish I had paid attention sooner. Maybe I could have saved myself a lot of pain. And don't let anyone make you feel like their bad decisions are your fault. Lisa tried to make me believe that her cheating was because of something I did or didn't do. But that's bullshit. She made the choice to cheat. She made the choice to lie. If you're going through something similar, know this, you'll survive. It'll hurt like hell, and there will be days when you don't want to get out of bed, but you'll make it through. And one day, you'll look back and realize that you're stronger than you ever thought possible. Take care of yourself, and don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it. I wouldn't have gotten through this without the support of my friends and family.